Lesson 9.3, using the quadratic formula to solve equations. Let's look at example 7. First, start with naming your A, B, and C values. So A is 1, B is -6, and C is -7. Let's evaluate the discriminant. B squared minus 4AC. So -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times -7. B squared minus 4AC. That is a positive 64. So we'll know that we'll get two real solutions when we solve using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's solve using that quadratic formula. -b, when your b is negative, you will do best if you do -1 times your b value. Plus or minus the square root. We just evaluated the b squared minus 4ac, and we know that's 64. All over 2 times a, so 2 times 1. Let's simplify each part. -1 times -6 is a positive 6, plus or minus the square root of 64. That is a perfect square. If you need to show your prime factorization to find that, feel free to do so. But the square root of 64 is 8. All over 2 times 1 is 2. One way you could simplify this is to notice that each of those numbers, 6, 8, and 2, are all divisible by 2. Or you could go ahead and separate and make your plus and minus equations. 6 plus 8 divided by 2, and 6 minus 8 divided by 2. Using this symbol, it means plus or minus. So take 6 plus 8, keep your divided by 2, and 6 minus 8, again, keeping your divided by 2. 6 plus 8 is 14. Divide by 2, that gives us 7 as one of our solutions. 6 minus 8 is -2. Divided by 2 gives us -1. Our discriminant was positive and tells us that we should get two solutions. We found two solutions, 7 and -1. Write them in set notation, least to greatest. So -1, comma 7. You could always plug these back into the original equation to check that they are the real solutions to the equation. So let's check with -1. -1 squared minus 6 times -1 minus 7. When we plug that in, it says it should equal 0. And it does. Let's also check with the 7. Plugging it into the original equation, it also equals 0. So the discriminant says we should find two solutions. By checking them, you know those two solutions are correct. Let's look at example 8. Before you can name your A, B, and C values, you need to move everything to the same side. So let's subtract 2x squared to get 0 equals -2x squared. Put that term first because it is your ax squared term. Then you have a positive, so it'll be plus 8x minus 7. Our A value is -2, B is 8, and C is -7. Evaluate the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. So 8 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 7. Eight squared minus 4 times negative 2 times negative 7. That gives us a positive 8. Let's use the quadratic formula now to solve. X equals negative b. Because our b is positive, you could just say negative 8. If you know you'll do better by saying negative 1 times 8, feel free to do so. It will still make it negative 8. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4c. We just evaluated the discriminant and found it to equal 8. All over 2 times a. Our a value is negative 2. So simplify each part. Negative b, or negative 1 times 8, is negative 8. Plus or minus the square root of 8 is not a perfect square, so do your prime factorization. You should find that you get a pair of 2's with 1 2 left over. So we get 2 the square root of 2. All of that is over 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. I'm going to need some additional space. At this point, you can notice and simplify that the negative 8, the 2 outside the radical, and the negative 4 are all divisible by 2. Or you can go ahead and separate their plus or minus. So negative 8 plus 2 the square root of 2 over negative 4. And negative 8 minus 2 the square root of 2 over negative 4. We'll still need to simplify. 2 goes into negative 8 negative 4 times, plus 2 goes into itself once, so we'll just have the square root of 2 over 2 goes into negative 4 negative 2 times. Do the same in the denominator, so in the second solution, not the denominator, but the whole second solution. So the only difference in this one is it's going to be minus. Those are acceptable answers. So least to greatest, the smaller one will be the one with the minus sign. It's uncommon to leave the negative in the denominator, so you could go further to simplify, but I will accept those answers as is.